This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
I'm Alma Angeles, and we're coming to you live from Manila and Cambodia. Hello, Crystal.
Hello, Alma. I'm Crystal Ann Ballesteros from your EBC Cambodia Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines, President Duterte is expected to discuss ways to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic when he delivers a speech at the 26th Nikkei Conference on the Future of Asia on Friday.
Singapore used a misinformation law Thursday to order Facebook and Twitter to warn users about what it said were false claims about a dangerous coronavirus strain emerging in the city.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque announced that religious gatherings are now allowed up to 30% capacity in Metro Manila.
Japan is extending its entry ban to 7 more nations. Set to come into effect on Friday, May 21, Japan will deny entry of foreign travelers coming from Thailand, Sri Lanka, the Seychelles, Cambodia, St. Lucia, Mongolia, and East Timor.
And now to the news. President Duterte is expected to discuss ways to recover from the coronavirus disease pandemic when he delivers a speech at the 25th Nikkei Conference on the Future of Asia today. In a press statement on Thursday, Malacanang confirmed Duterte's participation in the Future of Asia Forum organized by the Tokyo-based Nikkei Incorporated, the largest economic newspaper in Japan and the largest news group in Asia. He is set to deliver a speech at about 1:45 p.m. on Friday, according to the palace. President Duterte will join the forum virtually, the Presidential Communications Operations Office in a separate statement said. This will be his second time to join the Nikkei Conference, one of Asia's top foreign policy and economic fora. He will join leaders from Japan, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and Vietnam, as well as heads of international organizations, according to Malacanang. Before the scheduled conference, Duterte had a phone conversation with Japanese Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide on Wednesday. He and Suga discussed the prevailing pandemic, the Philippines and Japan's bilateral ties, the West Philippine Sea disputes, the latest developments in Myanmar, and the fight against piracy, terrorism, and other transnational crimes, among others. In 2019, Duterte flew to Japan to attend the 25th Nikkei Future of Asia Conference. The Nikkei Conference on the Future of Asia is an annual meeting that gathers political, economic, and academic leaders from the Asia-Pacific region to discuss current political and economic trends and issues. Last year, the forum was canceled due to the pandemic. The theme of this year's conference is Shaping the Post-COVID Era, Asia's Role in the Global Recovery.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque announced that religious gatherings are now allowed up to 30% capacity in Metro Manila. Metro Manila is still under General Community Quarantine or GCQ with heightened restrictions until the end of May. Let's listen in.
Nagpulong po ang inyong IATF kahapon kung saan nagsabi ang Metro Manila Council na pinapayagan ng mga mayors ng NCR ang religious gathering sa 30% venue capacity. Kung matatandaan po ninyo, una nang pinayagan ng IATF ang religious gatherings na hanggang 10% ang venue capacity sa ilalim ng General Community Quarantine with heightened restrictions. Ngunit binigyan ng discretion ang mga local government units na taasan ang venue capacity ng religious gatherings na hindi tataas sa 30% allowable venue capacity.
A top security conference in Singapore that was to be attended by U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga was canceled on Thursday due to the coronavirus. The Shangri-La Dialogue was scheduled to be an in-person event from June 4 to the 5th and was also set to welcome ministers and senior military officials from around the world. But the International Institute for Strategic Studies, the think tank that organizes the annual forum, said it had become unviable. Singapore Defense Minister Ng Eng Hen said canceling the forum was the responsible course as the pandemic had taken a turn for the worse, especially in parts of Asia, aggravated by more infectious variants. It was the second year in a row that the conference, which has been running since 2002, has been canceled due to the virus. And the news came after the World Economic Forum announced this week it had called off its planned annual gathering of political, economic, and business leaders, which had been set for August in Singapore. That's the World Economic Forum. Staying in Singapore, the city-state used a misinformation law to order Facebook and Twitter to warn users about what it said were false claims about a dangerous coronavirus strain emerging in the city. New Delhi's Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal claimed this week on social media that a strain of the virus had appeared in Singapore that could trigger a new wave of cases in India and urged a flight ban. But the city-state strongly rejected what it said were unfounded assertions, insisting there was no such thing as a Singapore variant. India's own government also strongly criticized Mr. Kejriwal. Singapore said a strain recently detected there and responsible for an uptick in cases had originated in India. But claims about the Singapore variant began circulating online, prompting leaders to order Facebook, Twitter, and a local technology-focused portal to post the warnings. Facebook and Twitter confirmed they had received the request and complied with it. Users of the platforms in Singapore received a warning notice and were directed to a government-run site aimed at debunking false information. And it said there is no new Singapore variant of COVID-19, adding the strain that is prevalent in many of the COVID-19 cases detected in Singapore originated from India.
The U.S. Treasury slapped sanctions on 16 senior Myanmar officials and family members on Monday, citing their support for the government's violent and lethal attacks against the country's pro-democracy movement. Among those placed on the Treasury's blacklist were 4 members of the military junta State Administration Council, 7 ministers, the chairman of the military-controlled Election Commission, and the governor of the Central Bank of Myanmar. 3 others on the list were children of members of the State Administration Council who had been sanctioned earlier in the wake of the February 1 coup overthrowing the elected government. The Treasury said in a statement that Myanmar's military regime is, quote, violently repressing the pro-democracy movement in the country and is responsible for the ongoing violent and lethal attacks against the people of Burma, including the killing of children.
In a related news, Britain on Monday announced sanctions on the Myanmar Gems Enterprise, or MGE, in the latest action to target sources of funding for the ruling military junta. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said the military junta in Myanmar continues to crush democracy and attack its own people with brutal ferocity. MGE is a state-owned enterprise which oversees Myanmar's multi-billion-dollar gem activities and is now under the regime's control following the military coup last February 1. Myanmar is one of the world's largest producers of rubies and jade. The sanctions prevent anyone from dealing with funds owned or controlled by the MGE and held in the UK. Britain has already announced sanctions against the Myanmar Economic Cooperation, or MEC, and another military-linked conglomerate called Myanmar Economic Holdings Limited.
China on Thursday branded the United States an out-and-out security risk creator in the South China Sea after an American warship sailed through waters near the disputed Paracel Islands. Let's listen in.
美方未经中国政府允许，擅自进入中国西沙群岛海域，侵犯了中国主权和安全，破坏了南海地区和平与稳定。中方对此表示坚决反对。中方敦促美方立即停止此类侵权挑衅行为，并将继续采取必要措施，坚定捍卫
operations in the Flashpoint waterway.
In other news, Royal Dutch Shell said it has sold its entire stake in the Malampaya natural gas field off the Philippines for up to $460 million. The undersea field in the South China Sea has supplied a significant portion of the Philippines' energy needs since 2002, but is set to run dry in a few years, according to Filipino officials earlier. Today's announcement is consistent with Shell's efforts to shift our upstream portfolio to one that is focused on 9 core positions. That, according to Weil Sawan, Shell's upstream director, he said this in a statement. A subsidiary of the oil and shipping firm, Udena Corp, is to pay $380 million for Shell's 45% operating interest in the gas field, plus up to $80 million between 2022 and 2024, contingent on asset performance and commodity prices, the statement added. The deal is expected to be completed by the end of the year. The transaction brings Udena's total shareholding in the Malampaya field to 90%, having earlier brought out the 45% stake of U.S. oil giant Chevron back in 2019. A state-owned Philippine company holds the remaining 10%. And Crystal and I will be back right after this short break.
This portion is brought to you by Security Bank.
Factual.
We have to defeat the virus everywhere.
Timely information. Balanced, not only in the country, but also abroad.
I'm certain of one thing.
Interviews that people need to know. Watch Aguila Pilipinas. A 1-hour newscast of reports coming from regional hubs in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Know the important updates in Asia in ASEAN in Focus. Track the latest stories in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Tune into Mata ng Agila, the evening primetime news program of Net25. Balanced and objective, Mata ng Agila covers national and international issues, tackles news on business, health, science and technology, entertainment, sports and human interest features, and current events. And Eagle News International delivers the latest global reports, impartial, accessible, and up-to-date. It brings to fore EBC's rich international scope and access to valuable information streams.
Well, thank you to explain our health outdoor track.
Catch these programs on Net25. You can also watch our news programs through eaglenews.ph and Eagle News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Dr. Lulu Bravo, chair of the National Adverse Events Following Immunization Committee of the DOH, said no deaths were reported after being vaccinated with AstraZeneca and Sinovac in the country.
Ang masasabi ko po, ako ay miyembro ng National Adverse Event Following Immunization. Wala po kaming nakita na ang bakuna ng Sinovac ay Astra ay may dahilan para sabihin natin ito po ay nakamatay o nakasama. Amin pong iniimbestigahan lahat ng mga nai-report na mga nangyari pagkatapos mabukunahan. Karamihan po niyan, nangyari po, nagkaroon po sila ng COVID, hindi dahil sa bakuna, kung hindi dahil na-expose po sila sa COVID. At meron naman pong namatay dahil meron po silang mga underlying condition na hindi nagagamot at hindi nabigyan ng atensyon noong pasyente mismo. Kagaya po ng heart attack, kagaya po ng stroke. Kung minsan po kasi hindi nila alam na sila pala ay dapat may maintenance din. So yan po ay aming pinag-iimbestigahan, pinag-aaralan at hanggang sa ngayon po, wala po kaming masasabi na ang mga bakunang naibigay, whether Sinovac at Astra, ay may kinalaman sa mga maaring mangyari pagkatapos ng pagbabakuna. Meron pong minor, sinabi na po ni Dr. Mirna Kabutahi kanina, meron pong may lagnat, merong medyo tumaas ang altapresyon, merong gininaw, merong na parang may trangkaso. Yan po ay kasama naman sa ating pag-i-inform sa kanila na lahat naman po ng bakuna ay meron talagang side effects.
In other news, scientists have discovered a new canine coronavirus in a child who was hospitalized with pneumonia in Malaysia back in 2018. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck, Professor Gregory Gray at Duke University's Global Health Institute tasked a graduate student at his lab with developing a pan-species coronavirus test in order to help prevent the next catastrophe. Gray and his colleagues' findings, released Thursday in Clinical Infectious Diseases, showed that a canine coronavirus was present in a group of mostly children patients admitted to hospital for pneumonia in Malaysia in 2017 and 2018 as well. Now, the team suspect the dog virus caused their illness as opposed to merely being present in the patient's airways, but can't conclusively prove it. If the virus is confirmed to be a human pathogen, it would be the 8th coronavirus and the first canine coronavirus known to cause disease in humans. The findings, scientists said, which was published on Thursday in the journal Clinical Infectious Diseases, highlights the need to more proactively search for viruses that could jump from animals into humans.
Malaysia on Wednesday reported a record of 6,075 coronavirus cases in a single day, with authorities warning of a dire situation as hospitals rapidly fill up in the worst-hit areas. Wednesday's number of cases beat the previous record of 5,728 set on January 30. A further 46 deaths were recorded. The Health Ministry said the second highest on record after the 40th event on Tuesday. Kuala Lumpur and the neighboring state of Selangor, the wealthiest and most populous parts of Malaysia, have been worst hit. The country's top health official, Noor Hisham Abdullah, described the situation there as dire and warned beds in intensive care units were filling up. Under Malaysia's current restrictions, which are in force until June 7, most businesses can still operate, but social events such as meals in groups and wedding receptions are banned. People are prohibited from traveling to different parts of the country, and schools and universities are still closed.
Japan is extending its entry ban. Japan is extending its entry ban to 7 more nations, set to come into effect on Friday. Today, Japan will deny entry of foreign travelers coming from Thailand, Sri Lanka, the Seychelles, Cambodia, St. Lucia, Mongolia, and East Timor. According to the website timeout.com, there are now 159 countries and regions under Japan's travel ban. In general, Japan's foreign residents are allowed to re-enter the country, provided that they have a valid residency status and re-entry permit. However, in an effort to prevent the spread of the new Indian coronavirus variant into Japan, the government has temporarily barred the re-entry for foreign residents if they have been to Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or the Maldives within 14 days prior to arrival. Now, this entry ban doesn't apply to Japanese citizens and those under special circumstances. However, they will be required to quarantine at a government-designated facility for the first 6 days upon arrival. They will also be tested multiple times for coronavirus.
Moving over to Vietnam, where hundreds of local journalists in Vietnam's capital city, Hanoi, receive AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines as the country battles its highest ever number of domestic infections. Vietnam has had more than 1,200 local COVID-19 cases across nearly 30 localities since 27 of April, with 187 local cases recorded on Sunday, the highest daily spike since the beginning of the pandemic in the country last year. Vietnam also recorded a new COVID-19 death on Monday, raising the total virus death tally to 37. Around 1 million people, or about 1% of the country's population, have been inoculated against COVID-19. Most of those vaccinated are frontline workers in the COVID-19 fight and medics at local hospitals. Several measures have been deployed to curb the spread of the coronavirus in Vietnam, including lockdowns in districts with high numbers of COVID-19 cases and limits on large gatherings. People who have been in close contact with COVID-19 patients or entering Vietnam are being subjected to a 21-day mandatory quarantine.
Singapore announced a ban on dine-ins and cut group sizes to 2 people as it further toughened virus curbs to stem a rise in local transmissions. Singaporeans say the restrictions were appropriate but describe feeling apprehensive as locally transmitted cases spike. Take a look.
But I take it still positively. I know it's going to affect our businesses, it's going to affect our personal meetups with family and friends. But a little bit of a restriction perhaps can take us a long way. So our travel bubble, oh my gosh, we can't wait to get out as we all are stuck in this little island trying to do whatever we can. So it's definitely very frustrating not to be able to travel. I guess, but in a bigger sense of looking at everything that's going on in the world with the virus situation, this is the best that any country could do. Of course,
a bit of apprehension. I try my best not to go into crowded areas. But again, I'm also a bit skeptical in case that we need to move about. The necessities that will be impacted as well, like visiting our parents, helping them out, and our family members. So basically, we have to have a fine balance between two. So I think the restriction is just enough, such that
the whole world is affected. So if the government got to control the thing, if they don't control, it will become worse. It will become like India like that.
This Sunday, group sizes in public or when visiting homes will be restricted to 2 people, down from the currently allowed 5. Dining in at restaurants will be banned, and all employees who can work from home must do so, according to officials in a news conference. The measures, which will be in place until June 13, resemble those imposed during a partial lockdown last year, during which the economy suffered its worst ever recession. The rise in local transmissions will likely scupper a quarantine-free travel bubble between Singapore and Hong Kong, due to begin on May 26 after an earlier failed attempt.
A top Canberra official said the crew of an Indonesian fishing trawler that was clinging to their vessel in bad weather has been rescued off Australia's west coast. The boat had started sinking in the Indian Ocean on Thursday, with 20 crew members on board, according to Australian Defence Minister Peter Dutton in a statement. Australian Air Force planes dropped life rafts for the crew stranded 670 nautical miles west of Perth, before a Japanese fishing vessel picked them up on Saturday. Dutton said the crew had been clinging to their vessel, and the rescue efforts took place in bad weather and high sea state. The survivors were transferred to the Australian Navy ship HMAS Anzac on Saturday afternoon. Dutton said the fishermen are receiving medical support.
The U.S. aviation regulator is ordering Boeing to inspect older generation 737 jets after the January crash of an aircraft off Indonesia that killed 62 people. All Boeing 737, 300, 400, and 500 planes will need to be examined, a total of 143 aircraft, according to a document from the Federal Aviation Administration seen by AFP on Saturday. A failure of the flap synchro wire missed by the auto throttle computer, which manages the plane's thrust, could result in loss of control of the airplane, according to that document. A Sriwijaya Air Boeing 737-500 plunged about 10,000 feet in less than a minute before slamming into the Java Sea on January 9, minutes after taking off from Jakarta.
ASEAN in Focus will be right back.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights, sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back to the program. The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, or POEA, said Thursday it would request the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases to increase the 5,000 cap on the deployment of nurses overseas. POEA Administrator Bernard Olaila said the request is in anticipation that the limit on sending Filipino medical workers would be achieved next month. Based on their assessment, he said more than 3,000 nurses have already been employed overseas in the first 5 months of the year. Olalia said most of the countries or the traditional market for the nursing profession have requested an increase. The United Kingdom, Germany, Japan, Saudi Arabia, and New Zealand, among others.
In other news, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Diokno engaged with members of the U.S. ASEAN Business Council, or USABC, via video conference on May 19. The USABC is composed of industry leaders representing more than 160 of the largest American businesses in Southeast Asia and aims to improve economic relations between ASEAN and American public policymakers and business leaders. Governor Diokno shared with the members of the USABC the BSP's outlook for the Philippine economy, as well as initiatives in accelerating digital transformation and financial inclusion, developing the national payment system, improving the investment landscape, and promoting economic liberalization. The governor also identified potential areas where the Philippines and the U.S. private sector can work together to support the recovery process. Highlighting the country's macroeconomic fundamentals, Governor Diokno said in a sea of downgrades, credit rating agencies continue to affirm the Philippines' investment grade status, unquote. He said after the dust settles and once COVID-19 is neutralized, the Philippines will remain to be one of the best investment destinations in the world, unquote.
In related news, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, Governor Benjamin Diokno is confident that the Philippines will not lose its investment-grade credit ratings amidst the jump in its debt because the level of liabilities remains within the international threshold. He said while the debt to gross domestic product, or GDP ratio, has risen to 54.6% as of end of 2020, it remains below the 60% threshold, and we're very careful about that. Diokno also noted that the Philippines' debt to GDP ratio is better compared to some Asian countries. And the analysis, he said, is that because of the reforms that we have done, our borrowing program is sustainable. So there should be no fear that the rating agencies will downgrade us. In fact, in the sea of downgrades, they have affirmed their ratings on the Philippines' international credit. End of quote.
To Brunei now, where the country has added Bangladesh, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka to its travel ban list following soaring COVID-19 cases across South Asia. All foreign nationals departing or transiting through the four countries will be barred from entering Brunei from May 17, according to the Prime Minister's office in a statement. The government has also extended the suspension of travel to and from India until at least June 13, as the Indian COVID-19 variant continued to overwhelm its healthcare system. The travel suspension also applies to foreign nationals who have been granted pre-approvals to enter Brunei from the Indian subcontinent, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Bangladesh via pre-authorized flights. Exit approvals to the five countries will not be granted except if a person's employment or dependence pass has been canceled or revoked, or they hold a special authorization work pass or professional visit visa. Diplomatic passport holders and members of the armed forces departing from the five countries will be allowed entry to Brunei. Brunei has maintained an outward travel ban imposed on Brunei residents since March last year, except essential travelers.
A subsidiary of French insurance giant AXA or AXA has been hit by a ransomware attack affecting operations in several Asian countries, the company said Sunday, confirming a Financial Times report. Asia's Assistance was recently the victim of a targeted ransomware attack, which impacted its operations in Thailand, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and the Philippines, AXA partners said in a statement. And I quote, certain data processed by Interpartners Asia or IPA in Thailand has been accessed. It added, saying it would notify and support all corporate clients and individuals impacted, end of quote. But that there was no sign further data was touched. Ransomware attacks, which use security flaws to encrypt systems and lock their owners out until a ransom is paid, have increased in recent months. One such attack hit us firm Colonial Pipeline last weekend, forcing the shutdown of its network, shipping gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuel across much of the eastern half of the United States, and sparking fuel shortages and long lines at gas stations.
Meanwhile, the United States has returned $452 million to Malaysia related to the scandal-hit Sovereign Wealth Fund, the 1MDB, according to authorities, as the Southeast Asian nation steps up efforts to recover looted cash. Billions of dollars were stolen from Malaysia Development, One Malaysia Development Berhad, or 1MDB, in a fraud that involved former Premier Najib Razak and spent on everything from a super yacht to art. Some of the looted money was spent in the U.S. and laundered through the American financial system, and authorities there have been clawing back funds and sending it to Malaysia. The latest tranche to arrive from the U.S. is around 1.9 billion ringgit, or $452 million. Malaysia's finance ministry said this in a statement, and the ministry also said the U.S. Justice Department remitted the money to a special assets recovery account in Malaysia, which has now received a total of 16.0.
Broadcast journalist Wayne De La Fuente returns on Philippine television and radio to deliver top stories and engage with the country's policymakers, shapers, and movers. Tatalakayin ang mga pangunahing balita alas 7 ng umaga mula Lunes hanggang Biyernes, live sa teleradyo ng Net25 at Radyo Aguila DCEC 1062. Kasama si Wayne De La Fuente sa Balitalakayan.
Do you like that?
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Ano nangyari dito? Eto sing-sing ko. Pakita ko sa'yo. Ganyang kalambing niyang Romeo ko. Paano kung di na siya bumalik sa'yo? Paano kung may nagmamayari na pala sa kanya? Babawiin ko siya. Hindi mo siya mababawi.
Yang sing-sing suot mo, mukhang hindi yan sa'yo. Dahil may ibang pangalan na nakaukit dyan.
Sino ka ba talaga? Bakit mo ginugulo ang isip ko? Kahit sa panaginip, bakit ayaw mo akong tigilan?
Napapanaginipan mo ko.
May babaeng pumunta po dito, sir. Bagong teacher siya dito sa baryo. Nobya daw po niya yung kapatid niyo. Sabi niya, Benedict, ang pangalan ni Romeo.
Our UBC correspondent Audrey Llaneras take us to a resort in Malaysia called Tadong Hills. Audrey.
As we all know, most parts of Malaysia are still under MCO due to COVID-19.
in this time of pandemic, it is important that we take care of our mental health as well. So, if you are looking for a new place to relax and unwind, Tadom Hill is the way to go. Located in the state of Selangor, Tadom Hill Resort is the right place for those who want to take a break looking for outdoor activities. This bamboo-inspired resort is about an hour travel from Kuala Lumpur. The resort offers a day pass which costs around 20 to 25 RM, depending if it's a weekday or a weekend. It will cost cheaper as well if you're in a group. This includes free use of their gazebo, which is on a first-come, first-served basis, water activities, and outdoor games. They also offer barbecue pit rental for 65 RM, including a bag of charcoal. You can pre-order their barbecue platter or you can bring your own food as long as it's pork-free. One of their outdoor activities is the go-kart, which will be enjoyed surely by the kids and also those who are kids at heart. They offer 10-minute ride for 25 RM and 25-minute ride for 40 RM. If you are to more adventure type of activity, you may opt to try their ATV ride. They offer a 2.5-kilometer ride for 43 to 48 RM and 4.5-kilometer ride for 80 to 88 RM, depending if weekday or weekend, to show the beauty of Tadom Hill. A tour guide will lead you during the ride. Please bear in mind that drivers are not allowed to take picture or video for safety purposes. But don't be sad. The passenger can take the picture or video instead. If you are alone, a bunk can take picture for you. He knows that we all want to take good picture of that memorable experience, so he will stop to the best places to take picture of us. And that's not all. Tadom Hill Resort also offers a zipline, which they called as Flying Fox, and archery as well. You can also enjoy to swim in the Tadom Hill Lake. Life vest is a mandatory for all the visitors that will go to the lake for safety purposes. There are also bamboo rafts that you can ride on. So, what are you waiting for? Once the MCO is lifted, pack your bags and visit Tadom Hill Resort. Take a break and relax for a while. But don't forget to follow strictly the SOP wherever you go. This is Audrey Sliarenas from EBC Malaysia. We live in interesting times.
December Paras takes us to a tourist spot in Jakarta, the Taman Mini Indonesia Indah. December?
Traveling is the most entertaining way to explore new places. However, due to pandemic, potential travelers often make their choice for a destination, primarily depending on the perception of feeling safe and secure at the preferred destination. Taman Mini Indonesia Indah is a tourist park with the theme of Indonesian culture in East Jakarta. It offers an endless variety of possible travel destinations of modern tourism. Taman Mini has an area of approximately 150 hectares or 1.5 square kilometers, which showcases the ethnic groups in 33 provinces of Indonesia. It is traveling around Indonesia by visiting a single venue. This park is a summary of the Indonesian nation's culture. A provincial platform is built around a lake with a miniature Indonesian archipelago. It is divided into 6 geographical zones: Java, Sumatra, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Bali, and Nusa Tenggara, Maluku, and Papua. Each pavilion displays a typical local building. Every ethnic group has a different building shape and style, covering various aspects of the daily life of the people from 33 provinces of Indonesia. These are displayed in regional pavilions with traditional architecture, as well as displaying various clothing, dances, and traditions. Besides that, the facilities provided at Taman Mini are hotels and restaurants, handicraft shops, and galleries. Public transportation is provided for visitors such as mobile cars, electric bicycles, and tourist bicycles. There are building rentals and venues for weddings, art events, graduations, and family and office gatherings. Apart from being an Indonesian cultural conservation institution, Taman Mini Indonesia Indah is a provider of educational and recreational facilities in one place at a time.
These recreational rides includes the Indonesian Children's Palace, an IMAX theater, the 4D motion theater, a cable car, the monorail, an Indonesian Chinese cultural park, a Sky World Park, Snow Bay Water Park, and the Keongmas Legend Park. These various recreational facilities make the Man Mini Indonesia Indah one of the leading tourist areas in the country. For only 20,000 rupiah or $1.40, the Man Mini Indonesia Indah is open every day for visitors. It is a safe tourist attraction where health protocols are being applied.
So if you're finding the perfect destination or planning to see the boundless beauty of Indonesia without having to step outside the city, I invite you to visit the Man Mini Indonesia Indah and see the wonderful Indonesia. Reporting from Jakarta, Indonesia, this is December Paras. We live in interesting times.
Thanks, guys. And thank you, Crystal, for keeping me company today. You have a great weekend. Safe and good weekend.
Likewise, Alma, and that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I am Crystal Ann Ballesteros from your EBC Cambodia Bureau, and we always live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back next week. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.